Hello everyone, my name's Jim and welcome back to My Music Obsession, and I have reviewed all the Oasis albums in order. Check out the playlist, but in this one we're going to rank all of the Oasis albums from worst to best. Now the weird thing about this is I don't actually genuinely dislike any Oasis album. They're one of my favourite bands of all time. I've really enjoyed going through their discography. I honestly don't despise, I don't even strongly dislike any of their albums, so I kind of feel bad ranking this because one has to go at the bottom despite me pretty much being a fan of everything in its own way. I'm going to be moving on to the BDI albums, Liam's project after Oasis, the Noel Gallagher albums, and eventually their solo albums. So eventually Liam's solo albums. So my journey with the Oasis members is still going to be going on. So let's rank the Oasis albums from worst to best. Let me know in the comments down below your ranking. Let me know if there's any Oasis albums you hate, because I don't hate any of them. I really don't. So number 8 on the list is Heathen Chemistry. Now I gave the album a good review. I do think it's a good album, but I think compared to the rest of the discography, I feel like there's a lack of oomph to the album. I feel like there's a lack of energy. I mean, the opening track, Hindu Time, stands up to anything the band have ever done. It's a really great summer rock song. But that's pretty much it, that kind of has that energy, that in-your-face vibe, that spectacle that Oasis had. The album's not really very interesting, but it has some great songs. You know, Little by Little I think is incredible. So there really is some good stuff on there, but ultimately the album just doesn't stand out. I feel like it's a little bit bland in places. But I still like listening to it. I still think it's a good album. It's just not front to back one of the greatest Oasis albums. By far it's not. Next is Don't Believe the Truth, which I gave a very good review. So from this point on I pretty much like all the albums, and it's just trying to determine where I'd place them. So Don't Believe the Truth comes forward with a fantastic comeback single, Lila. I think stands up to anything Oasis has ever done. I just love the carnival-esque feeling of the whole album. I love the drums on this album. Of course, they brought in Zach Starkey debuting on drums for this album, and there's a real kind of summery, colourful vibe to this album, and some creativity. And the band were really trying to experiment and take you in directions that actually they ended up culminating on the next record after this and their final album, Dig Out Your Soul. But I just feel like Don't Believe the Truth, it's a really good album, but it's again, it's not for me as iconic as a lot of the others, I guess is the best word. But it does have some great songs on it, Lila, Keep the Dream Alive, The Importance of Being Idle, I think is an incredible Noel Gallagher number. So, it is a really good album. It's just not as memorable for me as the rest of the others. Next up is Dig Out Your Soul, and it's just outside of the top 5. I think Dig Out Your Soul is a great album. I think it's really creative. I think people underrate this album. I think Oasis were really pushing themselves to take the band into realms they had never been to on this album. There's a spacey feel to it, there's a psychedelic feel to it. There's so much experimentation and ambition on the album. Now, I can see people saying that it feels a bit cobbled together, so many genres, meeting up, but I feel like this album is a real wall of sound album. It really does hit you, and it's a striking album. It's an interesting album. It starts off with Bag It Up, which is just immediately a very strange sounding rock song, which kind of sets the tone for this striking, in-your-face wall of sound that's going to engulf the rest of the album. I think Falling Down is fantastic, a real spacey, mysterious vibe, and the album, they really do well in creating different sounds on this album and creating a mood. I think it's probably the most Oasis album with a mood running throughout. I really enjoy Dig Out Your Soul. It's just outside my top 5 Oasis albums. Number 5 is The Master Plan, the Oasis B-Sides album. Now, it's not an official Oasis album, it's a B-Sides album, but a lot of fans view it as an Oasis album because it's so strong. Noel Gallagher was on a writing high at this point. He could throw away tracks like Half the World Away and Acquiesce and just incredible tracks like that, and the song The Master Plan. I mean, he shouldn't have thrown them away, but he felt like he could throw them away, which is interesting, because I still believe that he shouldn't have thrown them away, but it's an incredible selection of songs, The Master Plan. It's the best of early Oasis all thrown in, and it's got this real working class vibe throughout, because he obviously wrote it before they were signed. It's got the real hometown vibe to it, a real kind of homely, sweet vibe, but a longing to it. I mean, it's just really, really down to earth and gritty, the master plan. And the choruses, the melodies are incredible. Some of the best Oasis songs are on the master plan. So number 4, and people are going to shoot me for this because even I was critical of this album in the review, Be Here Now. Now, it's strange because when I was putting this list together, I was thinking to myself, what Oasis albums do I find myself coming back to most? And Be Here Now, I can't deny that I come back to. I might think that there are moments on Don't Believe the Truth that are better than Be Here Now or the master plan, but for me, Be Here Now, I always come back to it. So it's got to be, for me, because it's one of the ones I listen to the most. It's got to be, hasn't it? In the review, I was obviously critical because it was a review, but I have to place this in terms of which albums I listen to the most. For me, it's a flawed album, but do you know what I mean? Is one of my favourite Oasis songs, one of my favourite songs of all time. Whenever it comes on, I'm just pumped, full of energy, and that chorus, I just can't get over it. That chorus is the screensaver in my mind. It's the screen record in my mind. If I'm not thinking about something else, I'm hearing All My People right here, right now. Do you know what I mean? I'm hearing that 24 hours a day if I'm not thinking of something else. It's one of the catchiest choruses of all time, in my opinion. I really think that. And I can always, sometimes my emotion for, do you know what I mean, goes away, but then I listen to it again and it'll all come back. I love the bravado of it. I love the arrogance of it. I love, just how they were getting a bit more psychedelic with it. It's just an absolutely stunning song. I really think that, it's really, really long. It's really, really brash and arrogant and in your face. But this was Oasis at this time. And, for me, I saw an Oasis tribute band recently and I was just willing them to play. Do you know what I mean? I wish I could have seen Liam Gallagher when he came to the Isle of Wight Festival where I live and he played, do you know what I mean? I was cursing myself because it's just a stunning song. It really is. There's also other great stuff on here. Like, I think Magic Pie is a brilliant song. I think it's such a Beatles-esque, trippy number. I think it's interesting. I like Magic Pie. I also love, on the album, My Big Mouth. I'm finding myself loving more of the album when I go back to it. I might have been critical in my review, because everyone's critical of Be Here Now, but for me, as a brash rock and roll record, made with a don't give a fuck attitude, I can appreciate it. My Big Mouth is so brash, so in your face, so arrogant, and I love that. And I also love on the album All Around the World. I think that's an absolutely brilliant, epic song. And you can't have a go at them for it being this long, because he had wrote it before Be Here Now and he intended it to be an epic. So this wasn't actually a victim of Be Here Now's overproduction. It was always going to be this long. It was always going to be an Oasis epic. And it is an Oasis epic, and it's really positive, really full of life and love for the world, and really Beatles, which I love, obviously. I also absolutely love Be Here Now, the song. I think that's a wonderfully crafted rock song. I absolutely love Fade In, Fade Out. I think that's some of the best Oasis. The experimental, they were getting, people say this was the same old stuff. They were getting experimental here. And Liam's voice on that track is some of the best he's ever been. So there's so much that I find myself coming back to on Be Here Now. And I feel like if you don't like the album, listen to it again, because it really is a great album in my opinion. It's not flawless. There's not a patch on the other, the strongest Oasis albums, because they're just so good. But it's really, really good Be Here Now, I think, and I'm loving it more and more as time goes by. Number 3 is another controversial one, which is Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. Lots of people hate this album. For me, I really admire the album. I actually would say this is number 3 as well in terms of quality, not just in my listening to the album as many times. I genuinely think this is the 3rd best Oasis album. I just love how they were trying to get outside the box. They were trying to get away from what they had been. It was a more introspective album. It was more looking into themselves. It was more honest. It was more thought-provoking. It was psychedelic. It was interesting. There was different instruments. You know, there was loads to Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. Maybe it didn't have the arena grabbing choruses on every track, but it did have Go Let It Out, another of my favourite Oasis songs, possibly my favourite Oasis song. And I was sitting there watching that Oasis tribute band going, play Go Let It Out, play Go Let It Out, and they didn't. And this was a good tribute band, by the way, the #1 licensed Oasis band. They're called OASIS, look them up. But they didn't play Go Let It Out. It's just an absolutely incredible song, Go Let It Out. I think the joy that I feel when I hear Liam bellowing Go Let It Out is unmatched in music. I really think that. I love it. I love the psychedelic Beatles vibe. I love how it's still Oasis, but not. I love how it's experimental. The chorus is stunning. Go Let It Out is just joy. It's joy. It's euphoria to the ears, in my opinion. And I also love on the album Little James, an underrated Oasis song. I love how honest Liam is on the track. I love the lyric, I'm singing this song for you and your mum and that's all. I love that. It's so heartfelt. You know, people don't like the track, but I love it. It's Liam being his first foray into songwriting, where he showed he could be more than just the Oasis hard man. He could be vulnerable and he could be charming, and he is, and he went on to do that for the rest of Oasis. So Little James was a great starting point for his songwriting. Noel Gallagher penned some amazing tracks on this. You know, the track Where Did It All Go Wrong and Sunday Morning Call, wonderfully crafted songs, and they're really, really in-depth and introspective about fame, about drugs, you know, about all sorts. And Oasis were really coming down from high on this album, and you really feel it, and they wanted to give that emotion, and that's what I respect on this one. And it's also got Gas Panic, a song about coming off of drugs, a menacing, looming rock song. Brilliant stuff. You know, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, I love it. I love the production. I love pretty much everything about it. I really do. I love the ambition, you know, and I'm not an Oasis purist who demands everything has to be like the first two. I'm really not. So that's why I was so open to this, and I love it more and more as time goes by. It's a very, very important album in the Oasis discography, I think, and one where it proved they could do more, and I wish Noel Gallagher would show it some more respect. Number 2 is It's Down to 2, isn't it? We know what it's down to. It's What's the Story, Morning Glory, coming in at number 2, an absolutely iconic British album. You know, the soundtrack to Britain is What's the Story, Morning Glory. You know, it really is. It's kind of taken over the Beatles as the album that we most know in Britain. It does seem like that. It really does. The tracks on it are so universal. You know, teenagers can sing it, adults can sing it, kids can sing it. Everyone was singing this album, but it, you know, it just touched an incredible nerve. And it is an incredible album. It really is. You know, you can't say it's overrated. I don't think it's as good. I don't think it's the best Oasis album, but some of the moments on here are songwriting brilliance. You know, of course, you've got Don't Look Back in Anger. What can I say? It was played after the Manchester terrorist attacks. That's all you can... And it brought the nation together, seeing it in the face of terrorism. I mean, what more can you say? You've also got, of course, Wonderwall, you know, overplayed, but a fantastic love song. Some might say, you know, a really, really great kind of rock song, but full of really, really homely phrases and really, really working class feeling lines, and one about pondering life, I guess, asking questions. This album really does hit you on an emotional level inside, and it's done it for so many millions of people. It's that rare album that comes along that touches so many people at once, and it deserves its props for that. It's only number 2, but it deserves its props. It's a stunning record. Number 1 is, of course, definitely Maybe, the debut Oasis album. It has everything What's the Story, Morning Glory has, but it's, you know, it's more gritty. It's street music. It's really, really working class. You know, What's the Story, Morning Glory is working class, but it's working class anthems and it's stadium stuff. Definitely Maybe it has all the hooks and the choruses and the incredible songwriting, but it's really ground level. It's so ground level. It struck a nerve with everyone, you know, maybe less than What's the Story, Morning Glory, but it struck a nerve with many, many, many people. But I feel like it struck a nerve most with working class people, and it, you know, it was like a cult. It was definitely Maybe, when you actually look back at the time and Oasis at the time, they were really, really building their momentum, and this album is kind of the skyrocket that made them, you know, into the the mouths of everyone in Britain, but they did it in a very homely way by relating to people's everyday struggles with this album. You know, songs like Cigarettes and Alcohol, songs like Rock and Roll Star. Rock and Roll Star, what a track. What a joyous track when Liam comes in singing that vocal. Absolutely staggering stuff, you know, it's electric, it really is, and you can see why they made such an impact on music, because when Liam comes in with that first vocal on Rock and Roll Star, it sounds like this is the next rock band. That's what it sounds like immediately. It's just incredible. And you know, it's a song about being with your friends on a Friday night. Tonight I'm a Rock and Roll Star. It's got that you know, that vibe of people going out and having fun and being a rock and roll star. Even if you've got no fans and you're on your own, you're singing in a karaoke, it just has that. So, you know, and they couldn't sing that later on. You know, they couldn't write stuff like this later on. That's why it's so a capsule in time for me, Rock and Roll Star. An absolutely incredible track, it really is. You know, and you've got tracks like Shaker Maker. You know, the quality just goes on through this album. I absolutely love Columbia. Real club vibe. Not club as in DJ, but a real club as in rock club vibe. You know, just really, really interesting song. You know, there's so much to Definitely Maybe. You know, it's a really intricately crafted album. It has the Beatles and the Stones and the Sex Pistols influence, but it does give this new sound. They break down the walls as well. I actually feel like Definitely Maybe is more of a unique album than What's the Story. I feel like What's the Story wears the Beatles influence really, really obviously. This one you can feel the Beatles influence, but you can feel, you know, the Stones and all that, but you can feel a real effort to, this is our sound, this is our statement. You know, and it is an original sounding album in a lot of ways, Definitely Maybe. And I just feel like Noel Gallagher's melodies, you know, just captivate you. Definitely Maybe, everything about it clicks. It's one of the best debut albums of all time, and it is the best Oasis album. Let me know what you think is the best Oasis album. Let me know your ranking in the comments down below. It might be very different to mine. I based it on the albums that I listen to most. That's how I justify it, because the ones I keep coming back to. So in the next video I'm actually going to be talking about the debut BDI album. Yes, Liam's band after Oasis, a very controversial band. I'm going to talk about the debut album, Different Gear, Still Speeding. Check out my Oasis reviews playlist down below if you missed any of them. And thanks for watching this video. Please consider subscribing and we can discuss our music obsession. I will see you guys in the next video.